Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at an issue that, well, it affects almost every major city. We're talking about the housing accessibility crisis. But instead of just talking about the problem, we're going to analyze a potential solution, a new model, really. Our case study is a project that just wrapped up in Chomedey, Laval, here in Quebec. It's a 6-story building with 101 social and affordable housing units. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack everything about it, the demand that fueled it, the very complex financial structure, and of course the real social impact it's supposed to have.
Right, and the sources we're looking at really frame this as more than just a building project. It's presented as a model for how urban development should work. The whole idea is that this is inclusive, it's sustainable, and it shows a real commitment to social equity.
And what immediately jumps out is just how fast it happened.
Yeah.
This building, it's at 605 Curé-Labelle Boulevard. Used to be the site of a popular restaurant. It was led by a Montreal nonprofit, the Société de Gestion Carbe, and they built the whole thing in less than 16 months. That timeline alone tells you something about the urgency.
It really does. And that speed, it's a direct reflection of the market pressure, which is, that's really where we have to start. We need to get a handle on just how severe the housing crisis is in the Laval region, because the sources don't mince words. They call it an unprecedented accessibility crisis.
So what does that actually look like on the ground? An unprecedented crisis?
It means the market has basically broken down for a huge chunk of the population. It's not just that rent is high, it's that units are they're not available. Especially for low and modest income families.
And the numbers, the hard data, they really back this up. If you look at small to medium-sized apartments, the kind of places families or seniors are looking for, the vacancy rate in Laval is, well, it's stubbornly low. We're talking under 1.5%.
Yeah, and you have to understand what that number means. The benchmark for a healthy rental market, one where tenants actually have some choice, is considered to be a 3% equilibrium.
So we're at half that.
We're at half that. When you're at 1.5%, you've got a market that is actively hostile to renters. Landlords hold all the cards.
Which puts these 101 new units into a pretty stark perspective. This wasn't some kind of risky venture for the developers?
Not at all. It was a guaranteed lifeline.
The sources say it had a 100% potential occupancy rate right from the opening.
Oh, absolutely. Every single unit was spoken for before the construction crews even packed up. It just shows you the level of that demand.
And that demand is putting a huge strain on the existing social housing systems, isn't it?
An enormous strain. The waiting lists for low-rent housing and other affordable programs in Laval, they've seen a 20% increase in just the last 3 years.
20% in 3 years.
Think about that. The line for people in the most need grew by a fifth in just 36 months.
So on one hand, 101 units feels like a drop in the bucket compared to that kind of need.
It does.
But on the other, it's immediate, tangible relief for those families and seniors who are most at risk of being pushed out of their communities. Okay, so the need is massive. The market is completely out of whack. But to meet a massive need, you need, well, colossal funding. Which brings us to the financial architecture of this thing. The total price tag was $45.5 million.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a huge number for 101 units.
It does, and that per unit cost is often just the reality of building quality non-market housing in a dense area, especially when you're doing it fast. But the really interesting part here isn't just the total number, it's how they put it together. No single government or group could have done this alone. It required a multi-level partnership.
Okay, so walk us through that split. Who put up the money for the $45.5 million?
Well, starting at the top, the biggest piece came from the federal government. They committed $20 million through the Affordable Housing Fund.
So a big signal of national priority.
Exactly.
And then the provincial government.
The province came in with $17.6 million, but there's a really interesting detail in there. $6 million of that provincial money actually comes from a very specific agreement with the Fonds de Solidarité FTQ.
Which is a major investment fund in Quebec.
Right. And that particular pot of money is designed specifically to help build about 2,300 affordable units across the province. So they're leveraging these very focused investment tools.
I see. And then at the local level, the city of Laval put in $7 million. So you have all three levels of government with skin in the game. They're all invested literally in its success.
And the city did more than just write a check. They also gave the nonprofit running the building a pretty significant bonus. They granted them a regressive tax credit for the next 4 years.
Okay, that sounds technical. What does regressive tax credit mean in practical terms?
It's basically like a soft landing. The city gives the NPO a break on property taxes, but that break gets smaller each year over 4 years.
Oh, okay.
It gives the nonprofit time to get their operations stable without being hit with the full tax burden on day one. It helps keep the rents low.
That makes sense. It's a crucial little detail. And we can't forget the immediate economic kickback. I mean, this $45.5 million created hundreds of jobs during construction, right?
Absolutely. In construction, in services. It's capital that's put to work in the community long before the first tenant even gets their keys.
It's an investment, not just an expense.
Exactly.
So let's shift from the money to the people. The whole point of this project is affordability for two main groups: low-income and modest-income households.
Right, and the way they provide relief is quite different for each group. For those with the lowest incomes, the key is something called the Rent Supplement Program, or PSO. 65 of the 101 households are expected to get this subsidy.
And this is where it becomes really transformative, right? Because for those tenants, their rent is capped.
It's capped at exactly 25% of their household income.
That is a complete game changer.
It is. I mean, think about it. Many of these families were likely spending 50, maybe even 60% of their income just on rent before.
So this frees up a huge portion of their budget.
It completely stabilizes their finances.
So who covers the difference? The gap between 25% of their income and the actual cost of the unit.
The Provincial Housing Agency, the SHQ, covers 90% of that subsidy.
That city.
The City of Laval covers the last 10%. It's another part of that partnership model.
Okay, but what about the other households? The ones with modest incomes who earn too much for the big subsidy, but still can't afford market rates.
Right. For them, the relief comes from the simple fact that the rent is just much, much lower than the private market.
Let's use the comparison from the sources.
Yep.
A two-bedroom apartment, a 4 at Demi, in this new building rents for about $1,100. Now, what would a similar new two-bedroom cost on the open market in Laval right now?
You could easily be looking at leases close to $2,300 a month.
Wow.
So that's a difference of $1,200 every single month.
That is life-altering money for a working family.
It is. It's the difference between just scraping by and actually being able to save or invest in your kid's future. It's achieving that core social goal.
Okay, so that brings us to the bigger picture, the sustainable social impact. This goes way beyond just saving money on rent.
It really does. We're talking about community health, community stability. The most direct impact is poverty reduction. When you cap rent at 25% of income, you free up cash for essentials. Food, healthcare, transportation. It makes families less precarious.
And it creates something the sources call community stability.
Yeah.
When a family isn't afraid of a massive rent hike every year, they can put down roots.
Right. And for kids, that's huge. It means they can stay in the same school, have the same friends. It avoids all that disruption from constantly having to move.
It helps build real social connections.
Absolutely. People get involved in their community when they feel like they're a part of it for the long haul.
And the location here seems critical too. They didn't build this on the outskirts of town. It's right in Chomedey, an established neighborhood.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
That's the principle of social and urban mix. You want to avoid concentrating poverty.
Which is what happened in the past.
Exactly. When you only build affordable housing in one specific area, you can create ghettos of disadvantage. By integrating these 101 units into a thriving neighborhood, you give residents access to existing schools, jobs, and services. It's how you build a community that, as the sources say, aims to leave no one behind.
And finally, that brings us back to the local economy. These new stable residents, they have predictable purchasing power now because their income isn't just being swallowed by rent.
Right. They become active local consumers. That extra money gets spent at the local grocery store, the pharmacy, the coffee shop right there in Chomedey. It's a virtuous cycle. The investment in housing actually fuels the local commercial scene.
So if we pull back and look at the whole story, from the 1.5% vacancy rate that sparked it all, to the $45.5 million financing, to this outcome of a socially mixed community, this project really does feel like a template.
It feels like a strategic investment in people, and in the long-term future of Laval, it sets a precedent. And that they did it all in under 16 months shows that, when the political will is there, things can happen fast.
But, and this brings us to our final thought for you, here's the challenge. The sources give us two critical numbers. The waiting list for affordable housing grew by 20% in just 3 years.
Right.
And this incredible, successful project delivered 101 units.
That gap, the scale of the problem versus the scale of the solution, is immense. We're still stuck with a market vacancy rate under 1.5%, nowhere near that healthy 3% mark.
So the question this model leaves us with is this. What kind of large-scale structural changes would it take regionally or even nationally to truly close that gap, to actually start moving the needle on that 20% rise in need? Beyond just one project at a time, what would it take to shift the entire market from crisis to stability? That's the fundamental question to think about.